They have unreal team speed on the offensive side. That's really where my focus has been the last hour or two. And it seems like they added to it this offseason, right? So very good skill. Tua is throwing the ball extremely well. They just their schematics are almost revolutionary in what they do. I mean, it's Coach McDaniel's very creative and does a lot of things to get you out of position on defense.
Sean McDermott, coach of the Bills, doing a little press conference from his office. I noticed the wind whipping in the background. I'm sure they're hoping for some of that on Sunday when the Miami Dolphins come to town to take on the Bills for the first of their two clashes this year. One of the great games of the week. The Dolphins operating a next-level offense. MDS had a story last night about the way they're using motion, and they use it in such a sudden way. It's just that last wrench in the brains of the defense before the snap as to what the hell is coming. The no-look passes from Tua Tagovailoa, the unstoppable rushing attack. Tyreek Hill, they did all that on Sunday without Jalen Waddle. Are you kidding me? The offensive line in year two of the Mike McDaniel system. I can understand why Sean McDermott is looking at this saying, well, I remember when we were the best team in the AFC East, and right now it's not us. We're going to have to beat a team better than us. Across the board, really, except for the quarterback position. I'd still put Josh Allen ahead of Tua, but it's closer than it's ever been, the way Tua's been performing and the way he's running that offense. Tua is the one, and we're going to talk about this coming up, how the MVP odds are skewing in his favor, and how could it not after you orchestrate the 70-point outburst, even though he wasn't on the field for a lot of them because they pulled him out for the backup because it was, stop the fight and throw the towel.
Yeah, I mean, what he said about the offense being almost revolutionary, it's interesting. You don't usually hear coaches talk like that, but I think there is some truth to that, and especially with the way that the Dolphins have been using motion. Because I noticed that in week one, as I was doing the Chargers and Dolphins game for PFT, you're seeing Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and whoever else. They're out in space, and then they're motioning out very suddenly, as you said. And it's not something that I really seen before, right before the snap, when it's coming from that far out, and it's something else that for defenses have to adjust to. They've got to think about. And then after the snap, it's like, oh my goodness, what are these route combinations? What is it that we have to look for, especially because they can run it now better than they did last year? I mean, you have Achane going over 200 yards. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, part of that was, I don't know that the Broncos tackled anybody last week. I mean, they still may be trying to tackle one of Miami's players right now and failing at it. That was atrocious from a defensive standpoint. And I know they know that, but just what the Dolphins are doing right now is so effective, in part because it's just taking stuff that we've seen, but it's layering things onto it in such a way that makes it difficult to scheme against but then when you have to execute against that team speed, all right, Tyreek Hill is so damn fast. Jalen Waddle wasn't on the field last week, but he is so damn fast. Achane, fast dude, right? Most fast guy. And then you see stuff like this where Tagovailoa looks like he's going to Tyreek Hill in the backfield, and then whoop, he just flips that thing right in front of him. It's crazy what they're doing, and they're executing it at such a high level that right now, because not as much of it is on film, I think it might be a little bit more difficult for opponents to study, even if they are divisional opponents. And, the Bills last year went against the Dolphins 3 times. Now, they didn't go against Tua Tagovailoa 3 times, but they still did go against the Dolphins. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I wish this game were not in the 1 o'clock window. I wish it were at 4:25 so we could all see it a little bit better. I mean, I'd have to go back and watch it. But yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Well, I like that it's in the 1 o'clock window, even though there's 9 games. I think 10 this weekend in that window, because the 1 o'clock games are the ones that we really get to study. By the time we get to 4:25, we're in full-on preparation for football night in America.
Yeah.
This is the one. This is the one to watch. This is the one to watch in the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. They talk about red dot players in the NFL, the player that you have to know where he is at all times, the player that you have to try to stop, the player that gets game planned against. The Dolphins have multiple red dot players on offense. And, when you start deploying them the way that they have, and you talked about film study, I have a feeling that Mike McDaniel has already planned out how they're going to stay ahead of the film study, and I bet they've got stuff cooked up that is aimed at duping someone into thinking they're going to do this, and they do something else. You know, the next time they set up the play that was the no-look pass, maybe he does flip it to Tyreek Hill instead. And once you start focusing a little bit less on one guy, that's when he gets the ball. Then you focus on him, somebody else gets the ball. You see this formation, they know what you did out of that formation in the past. They're ready for it. You do something else out of the exact same formation. That's the kind of intellect and brain power that Mike McDaniel has and that he applies to his team. And that's why in year 2, the players are better at running it, and I think he's going to be better at devising things. So you have to be ready for anything. You have to be on your heels all the time. That's what good offenses do. They keep the defense guessing all the time. That's why balance is so important. When you skew too far toward one or the other, the defense knows ahead of time, or at least is pretty confident in its guess that you're going to do the thing that you do all the time, makes it easier to stop you. That first question, run or pass, if you resolve that the right way, a little bit easier for the defense to get it done. Now, I don't think it could have. I think they could have come up to the line and just shouted out what the play is to the Broncos on Sunday and still scored 70. But it's just a sign of things to come for this team. Because think about it, Myles. How many offenses are sputtering to start the season? And it just feels like it's going to take time for them to find their groove. The Dolphins are the well-oiled machine. For them, it continues to be keep your key players healthy. They keep their key players healthy. And they feel like, to me, the AFC team of destiny through 3 weeks. And some people got mad that I started using that term yesterday in the power rankings, and the power rankings are coming up later. But destiny reveals itself usually pretty early in a season. You get a sense of which teams have that vibe to them, that have that we're different than everyone else, and it feels like this is our year. Whether it comes to fruition is a different issue, but it's starting to feel like Dolphins in the AFC and 49ers in the NFC.
Absolutely. And, you know, you bring up the 49ers, and this is a point I was going to make. It's like I don't remember exactly where I read this, and it was an article somewhere, and I wish I could give the proper credit, but it's not in front of me. There was somebody on the 49ers who's talking about what Kyle Shanahan does to set up things offensively, right? So he may be running one thing, and then boom, he runs something off of it, but he's setting up the thing that he can run off of it by running one specific play, because he wants you to have that in your brain so that when you see the thing that they run off of it, you're not ready for it. And who did Mike McDaniel work with for years and years and years and years? Well, Kyle Shanahan. So that's the kind of thing that Mike McDaniel is doing now with the Miami Dolphins. He is setting all kinds of different things up just by running certain plays, right? And I think we are seeing some of the effects of that. You don't score 70 points without having some of the effects of that, where you think one thing's coming and then another thing hits you in the face. But I think Mike McDaniel is executing that right now at a very, very high level. And when you've got the head coach and offensive play caller working so well hand in hand with the quarterback as he is right now with Tua Tagovailoa, really sky's the limit. So I'm really impressed by the Dolphins right now. This is what I thought that they could be coming into the year, but to see it executed like this, man, it's really, really fun to watch.
By the way, and I don't like to peek too far ahead on the schedule, but week 7, October 22, Sunday Night Football, Dolphins at Eagles on NBC and streaming on Peacock. So we're going to get to watch and enjoy the Dolphins again in primetime. We saw them week 2 against the Patriots. We're going to see them again coming up in a few weeks against the Philadelphia Eagles. So now that the Dolphins have had this almost historic performance, 70 points scored for the first time since 1966.
That's
the Super Bowl odds.
Don't call it almost historic. That's historic. It's barely in your lifetime, right? I mean, it's way before my time. Like, hey, let's give them their due. It's historic.
Almost record-setting is what I meant to say. It's not the record. They could have had the record. They chose not to. And I support the decision not to seek the record. Historic in the event that it hasn't happened since 1966. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.